things, even if I don't choose to intervene. I'm the meanest when I'm clean, probably the dopest you done seen. Incomparable, undeniable, and everything in between. There's nothing even close, whether you focus or underneath. I float when I speak, God in the flesh you hoping to meet. It's like I'm courted by the weak and then thrown in the heat. You ain't trying to start posing the beef.
Welcome back to the Gray Space. I'm Zeke. That is Dre.
Yepers.
And we're back with another fire one for you guys this week.
Yes, we are. Make sure y'all subscribe to become part of the tribe. Do us right. Hit that like and comment because y'all loving the content. Now, we got a special guest in the building, my guy.
Yes, we do.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we've had this guy on our list for a while. A while with the H in there. You know what I'm saying? Friends of ours have been like, yo, but you got to get him. You got to get him on.
Right.
And so what you know how we say timing is everything. And so, you know, I got to do it how I do it. I got to bring him in right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Our guest today can be easily described by one word: pioneer. And we can end it there. Bars. But we can't. Because the complexity of this man is deeper than that. His early years with hip-hop molded him into a force that made 12 albums in 1 year. And 13 maybe? Something like that. His creation of ArizonaBeats.com transformed Arizona hip-hop in the early 2000s, while his bars contributed to the foundation of today's culture. From the BP Mercenaries to the Clink Room, the bars and the beats to the softball field. We'll get into that. He is here to tell his story on the only place stories originate. Please welcome Mr. Blaze Rock to the Gray Space.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
man.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. You know, I mean, LP done said something. Mm-hmm. Shogun done said something.
Mm-hmm. Those are my guys.
I ran into somebody at the grocery store last week. They was like, yo, when will you get Blaze Rock on? I was we get him on.
Crazy.
Great to have you on, man.
Thank you.
You know, as we've kind of been conquering kind of the legends of Arizona, it's definitely an honor, man, because you contributed so much to not just the Arizona hip hop scene, but to hip hop culture in general. But the dope thing is that you're so much more than that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I want to for the people who are not familiar, let's go back, way back to the early Blaze Rock.
I didn't have any gray hair then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't have.
I don't think my beard connected either. It was. Oh wow. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So talk about your start and kind of how you got into hip hop and kind of your growth throughout the years.
Man, so it's been a long time, and I think I was. I'm not joking when I said I didn't have gray hair. Not joking when I said I didn't have a connected beard. In fact, I don't think I had a beard at all.
Okay.
I started off at South Mountain High School. There's a couple of cats that that I was around that were doing hip hop, and funny enough, you guys had one of them. Yoke Westwood was on here, not too long ago.
Yeah.
He and King David Buchanan, were people that I went to school with.
Okay.
And I would see them and they were rapping, and I think one of them was still going as DEE.
Okay.
I forget the name of the group now because again, I'm old, bro. You know what I'm saying? With every white whisker went a memory, right? But I mean, hip hop is always one of those things that you end up trying to emulate the people around you and the people that you respect.
Right.
And I happened to be lucky enough to be at South Mountain High School when there was just a lot of culture, a lot of hip hop culture going on. And these guys, they really influenced me because I saw them rapping, I saw them writing, talking about going to the studio, and I was secretly just kind of, ear hustling as much as I could to try to figure out, what they were doing and what I could do. So I actually went and started trying to write and trying to, do a little something on the side. side. I was a little embarrassed as all, I think everybody who ever starts rapping, your first few everythings, you be kind of like, yeah, I don't want to tell nobody. I'm gonna keep it a secret,
Right.
And I at one point I got a little more courage, and I started reaching out to a couple of the homies. One of them's Justin Harrington, cat that I was in class with. And I said, I want to start a rap group. I want to be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? I want to get it in, like, be like everybody else.
Right.
Around that time, I think it was the first time I really went to a record store, bought my own music. I was relatively young. I was like 12, probably 13 or 14 years old tops. And I would hop out, go get me some music, and I was a big Tribe Called Quest fan.
Okay.
I was a big Ice Cube fan, which, that's a duality of its own, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to start this group, and Justin always laughs about it. I talk to that man to this day. He always laughs. He's like, yeah, you said you wanted to do a group, and, you basically went home for the weekend and came back with verses for everybody and everything else. And from there, I just kind of, I kept trying to do it, and I was a little shy about it. Also because it was still very new in our culture, here in Arizona, especially.
Right.
We're not like New York or anything where you have these, these certain kind of centralized locations for culture. Everything's kind of spread out. Fast forward a few years, I know me and some of my boys, we would record. And I remember the first time I went to a studio, it's called Burnt Chrome Studio. It was out in Maryville.
Okay.
And we paid way too much money to record some way too terrible tracks. And stuff that was over other people's beats and shit. We didn't know, you know what I'm saying? Right. We were just trying to be into it, trying to be involved, trying to be engaged. And I think, a few years later, I think things kind of settled. I was playing baseball. I was going to college and things like that. And so I would come and get with some of my people, and we'd be in the basement, rapping and recording over a tape deck and dubbing, things like that.
Yeah.
A few years later though, I started saying, okay, I kind of want to do something. So I think where I started really getting more formal with wanting to be an MC and wanting to be involved and engaged, completely with being an MC was, probably like the early 2000s. I was online, and, that was pretty much when the internet was starting to get real hip hop connected, right? Especially from an underground standpoint.
Right.
And then, additionally, that's where a lot of artists like Esoteric and Copyright and, Jedi Mind Tricks and stuff like that's when they were starting to bubble, and were bubbling really from the internet,
Right.
Like somebody like here in Phoenix, we didn't know these dudes. These dudes weren't like up the block. They weren't at shows or something like that.
Exactly.
So you found a lot of that on the internet. And so being on the internet, being in hip hop, I started looking around and seeing people talking about rapping and making music and things like that. And so I tried to want to learn how to record and how to write. I started trying my hand a little bit at producing and whatnot. I ended up meeting up with a couple dudes. One of them, he decided he wanted to create a group. And he was, he put out a message on a message board, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna jump in there. I'm gonna get with this shit, right? I'm gonna be a rap dude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a rap dude.
Yeah.
And so the man made this little forum. It was just basically a little forum that the three of us, me, the guy's name is Praetorian. It was his literal real name, for that matter, and that ended up being his rap name also.
Okay.
And the other guy was named G Smooth. And so we made a little forum, and we were talking about doing songs and this and that. And so at some point, the guy Praetorian just basically like vanished, out of nowhere. Okay. And so me and G Smooth, we ended up making a little group called Lyrical Technicians. And he was from New York. Obviously I've been here pretty much my whole life. And so he flew out here, during the summer.
Okay.
And we went and we recorded like a whole album. He was out here I think he was out here like 2 weeks. He stayed with me, and we recorded this whole album. And then from there, I really just kept thinking, I want to do something, or I want, that competitive nature in me was just kind of like, I want to do better. I want to do something better. I want to do something bigger. I want to do something newer. Having been in a couple of groups like that or whatever, then I decided, hey, I want to, do something on my own. So when I got in that group though, I have to mention, just cause it's funny to me, it was the first time I'd ever, I was trying to be different. My first rap name was IQ because I was kind of a nerd in school. Okay. So when I mentioned this time at South Mountain, I was like 12 and I was a freshman. And so I was really little, and, everybody called me a nerd and whatever. So I kept that name IQ for a while. And then when I started getting older, trying to be a badass, trying to be a rapper, so I called myself Billy Badass.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I was like, yo, this is
That's
kind
a
of
big pendulum swing right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And I mean, not for nothing. Then I was like, yo, this name's kind of trash. Because, you know, I'm a huge Biggie fan. And he has a few lines in which he talks about Billy Badasses. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's not really what I'm trying to do here.
Right.
It's not a good look, right?
Right.
So what I ended up doing, right around the time, like I said, with the Lyrical Technicians, project, I ended up basically taking two of my favorite entertainers and I put the name together. And that's where Blaze Rock came from.
That's dope.
I also looked at it as there's literally no one else ever who has this name or this combination of names. And that was always a big thing for me because you know, you have so many artists out there who have the same name or there's been tons of different instances where you have an artist from here that has the same name as there.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a good one is Compton's Most Wanted. You have Prodigy. And I didn't want to be in that position. So, I took Method Man has always been one of my favorite MCs. Obviously, one of his nicknames was Johnny Blaze, so I took that. And funny enough, I was always a fan of The Rock, so I took that and I threw them together.
That's dope.
And my idea was really that, you know, I wanted to be the entertainer that I am, and that would be very unique, and the name would have to be unique enough. It'd be a little weird, but it would fit me because it was weird, because it was unique, because it was different. So yeah, around that time is where, you know, I really got into the internet, hip hop scene. I started working on creating a couple of, forums. One was called urbanauthentics.net. And it was just basically bringing together hip hop artists across the world, really.
Okay.
You know, we'd have battles and song battles and freestyle battles and everything. And obviously, you know, community is community. So I met a lot of people over those years, a lot of artists that have went on to do things or, you know, do big things or bigger things or smaller things. And so around that time is, I guess, where I kind of grew some courage and started doing a little something around here in Phoenix, rather than just always putting stuff on the internet and, doing that. So I started meeting people. I can't even tell you who I met first or anything like that. But, I started meeting people and started really trying to, you know, see what it was like. And again, I wanted to be unique. So one of the things that I did was I recorded an album. I kind of taught myself how to record. I kind of taught myself how to mix. And I will admit, going back to some of those, you know, 2002, 2004, songs, the mixes were terrible. The mixes were ass. So I look back at it now and I'm like, oh shit. But you know, it was at the time, and it was still a period of time in which it wasn't easy to get equipment. It wasn't easy. It wasn't cheap, right?
Hard.
Everything wasn't cheap. You know, now you could literally walk into Walmart and spend $150 and you got a full-fledged studio practically, right? Back then, it was who had the money, who had the hookup, who had a homie, whatever. And even if you were willing to spend the money, you were spending thousands.
Yeah.
That was also a period of time where everybody believed that Pro Tools was the only method of which you could record.
Right.
And all of those things started stacking up. So I actually started recording first on, Sony friggin' Vegas.
Okay.
And SoundForge, and both. At that time, it wasn't even Sony. Sony hadn't even purchased it. So I started learning how to mix and whatever. So what I did was I made an album, or an EP, I'll call it now, called Mercy Killer. And it's a nickname that's kind of stayed with me since then. And so what I did was I went to Fry's Electronics. I bought a LaserJet, not a LaserJet, HP DesignJet, one of the inkjet printers. I bought the little CD print label printer. I had, I bought one of them, and then I had a raggedy ass compact computer, and I sat there, for a couple of hours each day, and I'd burn hundreds of CDs and put them in little colorful envelopes. I labeled everything. I did the design, did everything, and I'd go to any show that I could, and I would just hand them out. I was just giving them to everybody. And this was well before everybody started giving out shit. At that point, that was the point where everybody would accost you in the supermarket parking lot. Like, hey, buy this from me for $20.
Right.
And they're like, and you like, can I hear it? And they're like, I don't know, bro. You just got to take my word for it. So I would go to these shows and I would just give them out. Because I just wanted people to hear what I was doing. I didn't care if people thought it was whack. I didn't care if people thought it was dope. I just wanted you to know I was there and that that you could hear me. So I ended up meeting up with, a number of what I would call, legends within Arizona hip hop. So, like for example, a lot of the members of TSOI, Society of Invisibles. Back then also was Darkwater Merchants, and Strider Hyru is one of the guys who actually hit me up. And he's like, yo, I really like the shit you do. Come through, come by here. Let's chit chat, whatever. And from there, of course, I met all kinds of people. I met a lot of the dudes who are now in AOTA, you name it. And I just kept meeting people, and every time I go somewhere, every time I go to these shows, I'd still be just giving stuff out, and people are like, yo, I heard of you, I heard your music, I heard you. I ended up getting on a little, I don't know, it was a weird TV show type of thing. And then all these different things just kept happening. And so like I said, it was really just a matter of taking that and networking. And every time I was at a show, I was just meeting everybody. Around that time, I think is when I really when I met Denial the Gangster, who was a guy who put together 602 Streets.
Okay.
And also and I have to give the shout out because it's the same type of thing. I met Creeps, who used to do SouthwestHipHop.com, and also I think he also did ArizonaHipHop.com.
Yeah.
So he did both of those, and then like I said, I met Denial. Denial actually had me on a couple of his songs, and and I spent a good amount of time at his studio. And at his house and at his studio, and just really working with a lot of the Elephant Size Productions folks, because they were, good people. That's how I ended up meeting the Rascals. That's how I ended up meeting Sicko Deuce. That's how I met, rest in peace, Bomb Nameless, all these different folks that, that are, again, pioneers within the primary Arizona scene.
Right.
And so it's kind of cool to be able to weave my way through there basically by myself. Cause I didn't have anybody else. I didn't have like a homie or a manager or some shit like that.
Exactly.
And I was learning on the fly, and I was like, I was figuring out how to do certain things, and, teaching myself how to record, teaching myself better, writing processes. And I think if anything, just kind of forward jumping, that's the one thing I learned, throughout all that time is, you're always at a point where you're trying to grow in what you're able to do and what you're able to write. And so I can look forward, looking back, there's songs that I was afraid to do then that I do now, or I would do now, and I wouldn't even care, So I had spent a little bit of time on 602 Street. 602 Street was a great opportunity, again, to meet a bunch of people in the scene and a bunch of people everywhere. And so for whatever reason, at some point, Denial decided to go away from a forum, software that he was previously using, to where he built one almost on his own. Now that's not an easy fucking task.
Right.
Like, period.
Not at all.
Like that's not an easy task. He took a site that basically was a couple thousand users, running on a fairly heavily supported application called vBulletin, and he basically built something comparable, but people didn't like it. And I didn't like it either. There were a lot of things, there were a lot of familiarities that we had with vBulletin during that period of time, because everywhere had a forum, and almost everywhere had a vBulletin forum. So we all knew how it worked. It had certain features, it had certain plugins, modules, everything that you could do, and you knew it. And things worked that way. And so once that was gone, there were things that he implemented that just didn't seem to hit with the audience.
Okay.
Around that same time, it seemed like he had kind of gotten a little frustrated with the fact that people weren't happy with it. And I won't say he just let it die, but I'll say his support for it just kind of disappeared.
Okay.
And so around that time, I was just like, all right, well, I'm already running this website over here, and I had been running Urban Authentics for probably 5 years, and I had acquired a couple of different forums and built that into those, or merged those into those. And so at that point, I was like, well, there's a void. I could create this. I could make this. I could take this and do this. And even if it's, something that's comparable and works at the same time, not necessarily competition, then it at least gets people the way they want.
Yeah.
Well, and so, and I'm gonna you'll laugh. I originally wanted to do AZ Beats.
Okay.
And I spent a while looking to see if I could get AZ Beats. I wanted azbeats.com. AZ Beats, and it may be that way to this day, is actually a Beatles cover band.
Really?
And so when I first had the idea, I waited a few months. I wasn't nearly as web savvy or as internet savvy or domain savvy at the time. So I kept watching the domain registration. I knew it was coming up due in like a month or two. So I was like, all right, I'll just wait. And so I waited. And they ended up they ended up renewing, and so it wasn't an option. I was broke. I didn't have no money, so I wasn't finna be like, hey, so can I acquire this? Especially for an idea that fairly seriously could have just flopped. Period.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So I ended up going with Arizona Beats. I spelled it out, and I thought, okay, here's what it is, and so I put it up. And I basically went to all the same people. I said, hey, this is something I just put it up. It's not a competition with 602, but it's just to make sure that people want to fuck with it. Because people don't seem to want to, stick with the other site. I know there were some people that had some consternation about the fact that I did that, and they felt like it was shady or something like that. But what I did was, I tried to reach out to Denial and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, and I'm happy to do something with you or do something different, because again, it wasn't no hater shit. It wasn't I'm trying to capitalize on your shit. It was like, what you did isn't working, and you feel a certain way about it, and that's fine. You're welcome to that. But I figure there's an opportunity to do something different. And Arizona Beats blew the fuck up.
Yes.
In a way that I don't think I ever expected.
Yes.
I will say that as a web admin, I learned a lot very fast, because things happened very, very, very fast.
Right.
I think it was, lightning in a bottle, in the sense that people were looking for that. 602 Streets had been growing. Arizona hip hop was growing. Hip hop on the internet entirely was growing. It was very much in the incline state, rather than it hadn't settled. It hadn't gotten comfortable. Everybody was like, yo, I got to get my music out. And so it ended up being great that, it was looked at as a place for people to really, create and develop the Arizona community.
Yeah.
There are so many people that I met that have gone on to be incredibly, popular, famous, if you want to call it that. Arizona Beats it was a crazy thing. It was huge. There were other sites that popped up around the same time that tried to emulate the same thing, and they all failed. I'm not usually, yes, I am. I'm going to say I'm cocky enough to say that they all got shit on. Because they all came on with the same idea or the same concept. A lot of them use the same forum tools or whatever, but the things that I was doing and the things that I was able to do with a lot of the help and a lot of the people that were interested and that were, very invested in it, it made it home to a lot of Arizona hip hop artists, and to a lot of people outside of Arizona. We had a lot of times where, we had to kind of remind people like, yo, this is still, most of these folks are in Arizona. So I don't know what you're talking about, I got a lot of benefits from Arizona Beats, and not just financial in that, I run the site, so I'm whatever, getting ads and things like that. That is whatever. But from a benefit standpoint, the people that I met, the opportunities that I had were crazy. And on top of that, so many artists had opportunities develop from their presence there, and their opportunities that were developed on Arizona Beats. Yeah. Even the little countdown songs, some of the things that I'm talking about are so like nonchalant now. They're no big deal now. They're everywhere now,
exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. Back then, it wasn't easy for you to record and upload a song and have people hear it right away. Yeah. Back then, there wasn't a DistroKid or a CD Baby where you could just immediately upload your shit and people hear it. Back then, not everybody had, I got 100 gigs of storage space. Not then. Everybody didn't have a Gmail or some shit that they could access.
Yes.
Back then it was pretty much, look, I have no way to get people to hear this music. And so for one of the things that I implemented was a radio player, a countdown player. So we'd have people literally put their songs up. And they put the songs up, and people could go in and listen and vote, and people would listen, vote, and share it and everything else. And so there were tons of people who I'd never heard of, and I got to know them or got to know their music and became a fan right there, in that space. So it was a big deal at the time that I imagine I probably didn't feel it was the same back then,
Right.
And so that went on for some good times. I was able to, I met Carly Hustle through Arizona Beats, for that matter. And for what it's worth, even, one of my first plays on the radio was Matlocks. And I met Matlocks on 602 Streets. He found the song. He played the song It's called Get You Popped. He played it. I didn't even know. I didn't even know him at the time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know the hierarchy of folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't know like, hey, you got to get with this dude and this show and this and that. And I just heard like, hey, he hit me up and he said, hey, send me the song. You know, it needs to be clean, obviously. Sending me this joint. I really want to play it. I'm like, all right, you know, I'm hyped. Like, oh shit, you about to play this shit? I don't even know who this dude is. You know, I don't give a fuck. Here you go. You know, and I had to drive. You know, I used to live in South Phoenix, but I drove up to where Power used to be on Central and met Matt Locks there, gave him the CD and shit. And all of that sounds crazy now, right? Yeah. I don't even own a CD player, bro. My car doesn't have a CD player, right? But back then, I'm up there toting CDs and shit, yeah. And so, yeah, like, just, again, fast forwarding a little bit, but met Carly, had the opportunity to do a radio show on Power called The Pulse. We did that, I think, for, I want to say it was a little over a year. Myself, my man J Love, Javon Adams, and Yaya Martinez was our producer. And so it was just a crazy situation. A lot of things developed. Some of the folks that we had at one point that were signed, Young Rod was one of them that, you know, again, benefited from Arizona Beats. He was pretty much, I don't want to say, I hate using the word discovered. I don't want to say it that way, but I want to say that there were people that became aware of him as a result of his presence on Arizona Beats and some of the stuff that he was doing on Arizona Beats. You know, SyncQ was another one that, you know, was again open and people started catching on, people doing that. I don't
want to stop you, but
sure.
Why don't you like the word discovered?
I was thinking the same thing.
So there's a couple reasons why I hate the word discover. So it gives people the impression that these things didn't exist before they did. And to me, those artists existed long before anybody found them. More importantly, you know, using Young Rod as an example, and I know everybody likes to use dude as a punching bag, and that's fine. But his style, his everything was who he was before he got with 50, before this person heard of him, this person heard of him that way. So I hate to use the word discover because I think it almost taints the artist's actual content. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
It isn't to say that, you know, well, he was big before you told him. Nah, it's just that I would prefer to say, you know, before people found out about him versus.
I did like your word though, like making people more aware.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
I think that is kind of interesting.
Yes,
I've never really heard that before.
Yeah,
and I do like that.
Yeah,
because it's not necessarily discovered. It's making people more aware of what's going on.
Absolutely. There's a matter of ownership when you say discover, right? And that true, and I think that ownership takes it away from the artist or the creator themselves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because no matter how you look at it, we could use another example. I know Quincy Jones didn't discover Michael Jackson, but I'm using that just as an example for the fact that Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson is who Michael Jackson was, and while Quincy did a lot to make Michael Jackson into what he became, Quincy didn't discover him. He cultivated it. He developed it, right? You think of it like seeds, right? A seed is still a seed before you ever plant it.
Right.
You planting it develops it. It moves it forward. And that's why I'm always kind of amazed about that discover thing. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah. So, you know, once we got that radio show thing, it was great. Like I said, a lot of those guys that got opportunities, it was something I don't think anybody believed it was going to happen, right?
It was, and I talked about this time because I was here, and that early 2000s, like 04 to like 08, was, but like you had to legit be standing in it to understand how crazy it was, because it went from, there was a bunch of talented guys. There was a bunch of people that were, but to your point, you had it was almost segregated in a sense where you had your Maryville sector.
Yes. Like survivalist. And then you had these different groups. Absolutely.
These different sectors. And then you have ArizonaBeats.com come into the mix. And then now you're hearing more about, like you said, Mike Rashid, but SyncQ at the time.
Right.
Juice, you know, Richie Evans.
Right.
And then, you know, our guys like Miranda and Rocky Tirade. And Megaran is, you know, and now these guys who are now freaking household names, right?
Yes.
Started really, their careers really blossomed on ArizonaBeats.com.
Absolutely.
And that's just, absolutely tremendous because it was like you thought if you were a rapper in Arizona at that time, you thought you was gonna get signed.
Absolutely.
Because everybody was here.
Absolutely. 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 One of the craziest things for me was I remember when I talked to a couple of artists and they were like, yeah, you know, I would get messages. I would get emails. I'll say it that way first. I would get emails from artists that I'd never heard of in other states, whatever. And they would say, hey, yo, I heard you run Arizona Beats and, you know, I'm trying to get involved. I'm trying to see whatever. And I was an asshole. So I would be like, yo, I mean, you could join, but I can't do shit for you because you're not from here.
Right.
You're not from Arizona. And at the end of the day, it's Arizona Beats. It's not New Jersey Beats. It's not Cali Beats. It's not fucking France Beats. It's Arizona Beats, bro.
Right.
And so again, I was young. I was stupid. I was an asshole. And so I was like, then at one point, I don't know what happened. And it is in that window of period of time you talked about where I was like, wait a minute, hold on. We can get all these people to come here. We can get all these people to come here, right? I remember when Sha Money XL, when I first talked to Sha Money XL, again, young, dumb, I don't even fucking know, right?
Right.
And I was like, I'm talking to this dude and I'm thinking, okay, fuck, this guy's crazy big because he's, he's with 50, he's 50 manager. And I'm like, gee, I'm a fan, right?
Well, of course.
Hey, I'm a fan. I'm sitting there like, hey, man, I just came back from Best Buy getting that Get Rich or Die Trying, standing in line for an hour. And that was the first time I think where I really thought, wow, this is something. This isn't just, this isn't just me wasting my time, in the evening or on the weekend or something. This is something that's really becoming beneficial, for myself, for artists, for everyone, not just artists necessarily, but labels and shit like that were coming in and like, yo, this is uncharted waters. This is untapped. Two-Tone always brings it up, and I appreciate him for bringing it up, not always bringing it up, because one of my biggest issues is it isn't about me that I'm hyped about, right? The hype part about it is I remember the Garbage Disposal diss that Willie North Pole did, and the first place it was posted was on Arizona Beats. And there was so much traffic coming for this, this song. And there were so many people involved and engaged about that song. And it was all happening right there. And obviously that was a piece that kind of vaulted some of these guys into their opportunities that they ran into. At the same time, it was a lot of irreverence. We had, rest in peace, but, Attitude Promotions used our site a lot to really cultivate, shows and everything. Justice is another one where now they're, super big with respect to underground, but there was a period of time in which, a good percentage of what they came up with and the shows that they were doing, et cetera, were basically sourced from artists that came from Arizona Beats or that were made known by Arizona Beats. Yeah. So that connectivity was amazing. Around that time, like you mentioned, though, is where, social media started to expand.
Right.
And I think as social media expanded, some of the things that we were doing with Arizona Beats became less important because as a result of that expansion in social media, the geographical categorization of music kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
It's the point where, kind of like you said, where, I'll use Arizona as an example. Yeah, you had those Maryvale sounds. You had the South Side sound, right? You had the Latin sound. I'll just lump that as Latin sound, but y'all know what I mean. And it's not a disrespectful thing. And then you had the East Coast transplants. Then you had, the sort of mid, let's call it, true hip hop folks. And it was all very, very siloed. As social media grew, those silos kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
And then it didn't really matter where the fuck you was from.
Right.
And then in your city didn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Your state didn't mean shit because people just want to hear dope music.
Right.
And so as that happened, of course, Arizona Beats kind of went about its way and I ended up selling it to another cat that was here in the States I don't know that he really did a whole lot with it after that. And I kind of was like,
cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I always hear a lot of old rappers and old in the sense that, these guys that we all look up to, that we all listen to. I always hear them talking about, you create something to sell it.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I learned it that way because I created that with the idea that at some point I wanted to get the fuck away from it.
Right.
And I wanted to build it to where it was something that I could say, I've had enough.
I did my job.
Yeah. And so when it worked out for me because it was really when people started to push over to MySpace primarily, push over to Facebook. That was again,
were the first two.
that was when everything kind of went, oh, well, we out here, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been amazing for, Arizona Beats was an amazing opportunity. Not just for me in that, there's profit and all that, really just for me meeting people and people knowing who I am, primarily from the music. It was always revealing for me because I would say if 100 people came up and talked about Arizona Beats, 5 of them knew that I owned it. They would be talking to me about yo, I heard you did this, I heard your music, blah, blah, blah. And then they come back to me, a month later, like, hey, hold on. I heard you,
right.
You on Arizona Beats. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and I was always kind of shy about it anyway. There was a good period of time where I just flat lied. I had another account, that did all the administrative types of things, and people didn't really put it together. Then there was after a while, I was like, this is bullshit. I can't do both. And so I just started doing it myself. And, it was my first foray into really understanding advertisement.
That's dope.
Offering artists, I always looked at it it was so costly. One of the websites I went to a lot to was rapmusic.com at the time. And getting an ad on rap music was a fucking fortune for, I want to say I was like 20, 23, 24. I wasn't very old. I didn't have a real good job or no shit like that. And I didn't have a lot of extra money or so trying to get ads, you knew though that you had to come up with a way to get people's attention. Right. You knew every motherfucker named Mama raps. Right. And so you wanted to be in a position where you could say, okay, how do you get to know me? So when I would go to these other websites, cause I felt like there wasn't a whole lot here. And it wasn't like I could afford to get a billboard or some shit like that. Right. I was still struggling to make sure that I was getting music in Zia and things like that. Right. And so the experiences that I had with trying to get ads, I tried to make that simpler for artists here at Arizona Beats. So I would offer dudes, and I'm going to say this is going to sound hilarious now. I would offer dudes, I'll run an ad in my shuffle. I'll run an ad for an entire week for you. There's only, this is how many banners are in the shuffle. I'll run that banner for $5. And then after I started seeing how many hits the site was getting as the site grew, then I would I'd change the advertisements or whatever. And then when people start catching on, like, hey, this is actually like turning into numbers for dudes. Okay. Then I'd start getting more and more people like, hey, I need to run an ad. So then I started learning, well, I don't have to only do this banner. I could do this banner, and then I could do this, and I could do an interstitial, and then I could do, I could sponsor a forum by a person for a period of time. So it was a learning experience for me, big time, during a period of time where folks like me weren't really exposed to, let's call it the commerce of the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it wasn't like now, where now you can just sign up for a Google AdSense and go through a class on SEO. I was trying to learn all this on the fly, right? Yeah. I still have $173 in my Google AdSense that was entirely from Arizona Beats. And it was during the last month or so that I owned it, where Google, I was able to get in there and I was able to turn it into something and, make a little money. And so, yeah, that's all history shit. I figured, I was probably a little longer winded than I wanted to be, but it's all history, bro. It's all history.
We need every detail.
It's all history.
No, man, go ahead.
Speaking of which, 79. That's on your.
Yes, sir. That's how old I am, and that's my number. Yeah, that's That's what I'm talking about. See, you hear it. Yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
I like that.
Yes, sir.
I was making sure it's to save you.
Yes, sir. That's what it is.
I like asking this question because I just like to know, just from the music standpoint, do you like the way the music is today, like how we consume it, how we get it through social media, TikTok, all that kind of stuff? Do you like that early 2000s era?
I like both. And I will say, as somewhat controversial as it is to most of my peers of my same age group, I like both. And I like both for different reasons. I would say, and I think you both agree, today, how I consume music, and that not necessarily being forced to do it a certain way. Today, I have certain amount of time, I have a certain amount of interest, I have a certain amount of attention span. I have other things that I'm doing today that when I was 23, I didn't have.
Right.
I have other things that are controlling me or stopping me, or I'm tired in some cases, right?
Yes.
I mean, like, me and my wife, we laugh about this all the time, but like, you know, the other week we were like, it's 8:30 or something. I'm like, man, I'm about to go lay down, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and she's over there, she's like, I am too.
Right.
We chilling.
Right.
Now, I can't think when I was 23, 8:30, who?
No, that's start.
Right? I'm getting ready to go, right? Getting ready to get active.
Right.
And so the reason I bring that up is that's how I feel about listening to music now. When I was 23 or something, I'm in the bathroom. I'm getting ready. I'm blasting music, right? I get in the whip. I'm blasting something, right? Everything I talk about with the homies starts from, have you heard X? Hey, this is my shit, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that way now.
Right.
And not because I don't like music. I love music. My homies all have kids. I got kids. I got a wife. They got wives and everything, right?
Right.
We come home, you get home or get off from work, right? The first thing you do isn't, hey, I'm about to go on iTunes and see what's new.
No.
Nah, you like, man, I need to decompress for a minute. I need to get right for a minute, right? Yes. Or you're taking your kid to a game or a practice, or you got to get with your wife and say, hey, you know what's up? We're going to cook dinner or clean up. You got all these things to do, right?
Yes.
But the reason I love it is it allows me now to consume the music on my time and my way. So I'm a big fan of Eric Bellinger. He's an R&B artist. I don't know if you guys know. Okay. I'm a huge fan of, and my kids hate me for it at this point, because when Eric drops an album, that's all I'm finna play for like a month.
Okay.
Not even gonna lie. I'm not even bullshitting. My kids hate it. My kids will say it. They'll be like, dude, if he drops an album, we know that's all we feel. And I'll be like, yeah, you right, bro, you right. But the thing about it is, I know I can consume that music on my time the way I want to, when it works for my schedule, when it works when I'm doing something in particular. When we were younger, 20, 18, 15, whatever you want to call it, I had to stop what I was doing, get in let's say when I was in the 20s, get in my car, drive across the city in some way, and go to a store, buy that tape or CD, then go back home and put it in the mix of the things that I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a Discman, but they sucked. Come on, right?
No,
You had a Walkman, but who the fuck's running around with tapes after a while, right? Because that was a hassle. It was a headache.
Right.
And you were kind of stuck with, let me rewind this shit. Hold on.
Right.
Did I catch it?
Oh,
Hold on.
sure.
Did I catch it? Oh, okay. So
1000%.
it was different.
Yeah.
Completely different. Now, I can literally just be sitting there, get up in the morning and go, oh shit, I heard this new shit came out. Let me... Boom, and I'm there.
Yep.
And it doesn't change my day. I can do it while I'm working. I'm sitting there at work. I work from home. I'm sitting there at work, and I'm like, oh shit, I heard such and such drop something new. Let me look on here. Boom, and I have it.
Yes.
That's why I like both. The time back then, it was great because that's what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't have all these opportunities. We didn't have all these different ways. And at the time, we didn't know any better. But I think we all thought this shit sucked because no one wanted to have to drive. Like,
Right.
we've turned it into a badge of honor now. Like, we were like, oh, yeah, I remember when I used to have that. Yeah, I used to, uphill in the snow. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dad, you lived in Phoenix, bro. I said uphill in the snow. I had, and then, like, for me, especially, because I lived on the South Side most of my life. And at the time, there weren't very many tape CD places, music places, you know. I remember a long period of time, the closest thing to a store really like that was Kmart. And Kmart had a very limited selection of music. And when you add the fact that a lot of the music I listened to at that time was super duper underground or it wasn't super available. It wasn't the mainstream, and hip hop hadn't been embraced in the manner that it is now. Right. So it was a hassle, you know? When I went to ASU, obviously, Tower Records was right there. I spent so many hours in Tower Records looking at shit because you were like hoping that they'd have a particular CD in the listening station. Otherwise, you rolling the dice.
rolling the
Right.
dice,
You
for sure.
you know. I still remember when Grand Poobah's album came out, his solo album came out, and the 360 song. I used to play that song. I used to play that single until I broke the tape, and then I bought the disc and broke that one and brought it whatever. I remember I rolled the dice on that album. And to this day, that is still my cautionary tale about the difference between now and then. See, now I can play an album and it's one song, and it's one song on it that isn't whack, or it's a 12-song album, one song bangs and 11 songs sucks. I go, let me get that one song
Yep.
and put that right there.
Yep.
And the rest of that, and I've lost nothing.
Right.
So that's why I think it's both. I think there's good parts about both.
I would agree with you.
Yeah?
I actually would agree with you. I do think there's benefits to this day and age.
Yeah.
You know, but there's something about back then too that was just kind of special.
Oh, yeah.
It just, especially listening to a whole album too.
Agreed.
I agree. Like there's sometimes, man, you rolled the dice and you'd be like, and then it would suck, you know.
Yes,
You get one or
yes.
two songs out of it, and you're like, man, I just don't want to listen to this whole thing.
Yes.
You know, especially on tape.
Yes.
Tape was worse because
Yes.
it's like, man, I got to skip through 4. Yeah, you know.
Is that it? Nope.
Nope. Yes.
Oh, right there. No, wait. Go back.
Right.
Yeah.
And CD
hell
made it better.
Of course.
But it's still, you wasted your $15 or whatever you spent
yeah.
on it, and you're like, man, all I'm listening to is track 2 and 5. You know?
Right.
Track 2 and 5.
Track 2 and 5. Hey, so real. It was worse when you had a tape, and the tape, the best song on this album would be like track 11.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you'd be
man.
like,
Yep.
come on, go.
up,
Man,
yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
funny.
Crazy.
So, you tapped on something when you were talking about your history that I noticed in your music, and I want to try to put these two things together. So, you had the 12 albums in a year, and you got a lot of you got catalog.
Yes, sir.
Like, pull up on iTunes, put in Blaze Rock. It's catalog and recent catalog. Like it's not all old. 2022 you pulled up as well.
Yes, sir.
But the dope thing about that is you can hear through the years you actually getting older and wiser in
Yes, sir.
music.
Yes, sir.
Right? Early stuff, you said something. You said, I love Tribe, but I also love Cube. Early stuff, Mad Cube.
Yes.
Mad Cube.
Yes.
100% aggression.
Yes, sir.
I'm in your face. And
Yes.
then you get to like All Things Lost. And then now you're seeing the Tribe with still the Cube, with still that aggression, right?
Right.
And then now an audience of one, which is way more toned down, but still that distinct tone in your voice. It's like if people heard you talk and then they listen, they would.
The same people.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That guy was rapping like this? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And it's dope. Talk to us about, for one, the 12 albums in a year, because that's
Yes, sir.
just crazy work. But then also your musical growth, and like you said, being able to stand in it now and being able to make the type of songs that you want to make.
Right.
The type of music that you want to make and not being afraid to do that.
I think the biggest thing, especially back then, was wanting to be as unique as I could be, because I always just been weird. I always been a nerd, bro. I always been not I want to say an outcast, because that's like school shooter level shit, but I don't mean it that way. You know?
Right,
I mean,
right,
I always just been kind of a loner. I'm at what now is called an ambivert. I like being by myself. I like, I'm an only child for that matter. I like being by myself, but I'm not shy really at all. And I'm not, uncomfortable with people. I like being by myself,
Yeah.
and as a result though, there's a level of weird that you become because you are comfortable in your own company. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's why I say I don't necessarily mean it as a negative, but I'm aware of it. Right. I always wanted to be able to say that the music that I did is me. I've always prided myself on, there is nothing that I've ever written or no song that I've ever done that I don't believe or that I don't believe in. Okay. A lot of artists, you're pressured by so many different things. And again, everyone has a different reason they do music. Every creator has a different reason they do everything,
yes.
right? Every painter, every sculptor, whatever, they all have different reasons behind it. And so I'm always careful not to approach it as everyone must have my reasoning.
Right.
But in the same vein, my reasoning is what I want to express, how I want to express it. I have been immensely blessed, fortunate, you name it, to have been around so many producers who have allowed me to do that. There are a lot of producers out there that they want to send you a beat and they want to tell you what to do. They want to tell you how to do it. They want to, they want to micromanage the process and everything else. And then even when you do whatever song, they want to critique and tweak and make you into what they want.
Right.
And that was always and has always been something that I push against.
Right.
I don't want to do what you want. I want to do what I want. I want to do what I'm feeling. I want to say what I'm saying. I want to say it, even if it makes me look like a dork, if it makes me look like I'm weak or whatever.
Right.
It is how I felt. And I look at all of the songs that I do, the aggression, the more introspective or even retrospective material, I look at it as timestamps. Because they are things that even today, if I go and listen to a song from my End of All Things album, or if I listen to a song from All Things in Due Time,
right,
I know what I was going through at that moment. I know what I was thinking. I know what I was trying to present. I know, and a lot of times it makes it even more difficult to listen to some of those songs because it transports you back to,
yes,
this is what I was dealing with. This is what I was going with. And sometimes it's great because you look back and go, damn, okay, now I would have handled that different. Or some cases you're like, how the fuck did I get out of that?
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes.
In that respect, I think that's where, all of it comes from is the honesty. It has always been one of the only outlets that I've had in which I could be 100%, 100.00% honest and myself, because within the music, and I've since heard plenty of artists who are much greater than I say some very similar things. I really don't give a shit whether you like the song or not. I don't give a shit if you think of this, that, or the other about it. I'm doing this song because that's what I felt. For what it's worth, that has been something that has helped me to continue through music, because as artists, you always hear artists say, well, I don't know if people are going to like it. I don't know if, this person said it sucks, or, this person critiqued it or whatever. And I mean, it is the one thing that has helped me throughout music is I just don't give a fuck.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I want to say what I'm saying. There are times where, I had an idea and I couldn't trust someone else to do it. So I tried to learn how to do it.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, that's everything for me in music, in every capacity, across all these different groups, across these different albums, across these different projects, all of it. It always comes back to, a level of honesty. Even in like the BP Mercenary shit, all of that shit is fiction. You know what I'm saying? It's all drawn out ideas. It's all ideas that just come up from my head. And yeah, it's not like I'm, it's honest and people pretend like that means it all is real or all is nonfiction.
Right.
But no, it's how you present it. It's what you're presenting. It's the direction you went, and you go in that direction because you believe it or because you're being honest with it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of music, though, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I love that you said that, and I think it speaks to a lot of people in different times of their life too, right? You were going through something that might not speak to somebody for years.
Absolutely.
I love that about music, because you can listen to something
Absolutely.
that is from the 90s and go and re-experience it and go, holy shit, man, like they were talking about, like, this is what I'm going through right now.
Right.
This is crazy.
Perspective.
Like, this is, you heard it back in the 90s, right?
Right.
You're like, it didn't mean anything to you.
Right.
Because you never went through it or it never spoke to you. I just love that about music, that it can be timeless, and being an artist and being like, this is what I got to go. This is what I just got to get it out.
Right.
This is what it is. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about this.
Right.
Right. But still, that honesty, I think, comes through and still speaks to people.
Absolutely.
And it might not be today. It might be 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the beauty of music, and I love it.
A crazy thing that I've, especially in the last few years, now that, now that Apple Music and Spotify and the like are more prevalent, right? One of the things that I get people hit me up, people that I see all the time, friends and or teammates, things like that. They'll hear a song or something, they'll be like, what the and they kind of say what you said, where it's like, that's you? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no fucking way, or something. But more importantly, they'll go back to a song that I might have did the song in 2005 or 2012 or something like that, right? And I'm clearly not in the same space. But for them, like you said, it connects right then to something at some point. Or there's a song and you hear a line, and I've had people send me a message like, yo, you said this. I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
My wife does it to me. Even she'll laugh at me because she'll be like, she's like, yo, this is, she'll write out the line or whatever. She'll text it or something like that. She'll be like, that shit's crazy. I'll be like, who is that from?
Right.
Who is that from, bro? She's like, dude, that's you. Oh. I must have been spitting, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because again, like I said, that's really what is crazy is how you said that. Music has this perspective, and even as people ourselves, there's songs that we heard when we were 12 or 10 or 15, and it was like, yo, this song hitting, right? And then at 40, you like, yo, this song hitting. Hold on, bro. Like you just it clicks different perspective. Your life experiences and things like that change over time, and it's a crazy feeling. I think it's one of the greatest feelings you can have as a creator, legitimately.
Or it could be the other way where you're like, man,
what
this
the
was
fuck
hitting.
was going on, right?
So I hate to say this, but I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I saw this performance. I can't remember the name of the artist, but the song was the song.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking
I
about.
saw and I remember at the time I was like, man, this is fire.
Yeah.
I saw the performance. I was like, she can't sing a goddamn lyric.
Oh man.
I was like, oh my god,
like-
my ears are burning. All
right, I'll give you one very similar. Cher, Do You Believe in Love?
Oh my goodness.
So funny enough, like when I was younger and that shit came on, I was like, okay, this is dope. I'm in the car listening to fucking what was that fucking Y95, right?
Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, this joint. And I think if I remember right, that's also the video where she's wearing like the little lingerie type of thing, and she's with all the sailors, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And I was hyped, bro. I was like, yo, this is dope. So the other night, last night, we were me and a couple friends were playing Apex Legends, and one of the players, she's playing that song. And I'm hearing all the auto tune in it, all the modulation in it. I'm hearing how awful the lyrics in it are. I'm hearing how Cher butchered those vocals. And I'm like, and I'm still humming along with the song because the song is still a song. It's got that place in my heart from when I was like 12, right? But then I'm like, yo, this song is fucking bad, bro. And one of my other homies is playing, and he's a bass player, and so we're always talking about music and whatnot. And he's on the same shit. He's like, yo, this is awful, bro. Oh my god, we're all, but yet we're still going. Do you believe? It's crazy, but you're right. You're absolutely right because that was my shit back then, and it was like yesterday. It was. Oh, get this off, bro.
Stomp.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You said something about producers, and I think it's important, man. I just talked to LP shit last week. He lived right down the street too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But you've had quite a few producers that you work with, but you seem to kind of work with a few more than the others.
Yes.
I say names like Paconaut. I say names like Lost Perception.
Yes.
Black One.
Yes.
Talk to us about how production. You kind of touched on it, but how production has really been key because you've had an array of beats. Like if you listen to your tracks, it's like you got some that are more on the sample side. And then you got some that are more bass heavy, very West Coast sounding. Then you got some that are more East Coast. You've got it's everywhere, right? Like you can pick a part of the United States and be like, oh, that's East Coast. Oh, that's Midwest. Oh, that's talk to us about production for you and why you've been very great at picking production.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Number one, it comes from the fact that at the end of the day, I'm a student of the music. I'm a student of hip hop, and I've been a student of hip hop since I was introduced to hip hop.
Right.
I've had so many influencers and influences that maybe they didn't know it. Number one, or number two, I just wanted to be engulfed in hip hop culture.
Right.
I still remember, VHS taping Yo MTV Raps.
Yep.
I still remember, you know, just really trying to be engaged and involved in everything about hip hop. The other thing for me is, when I first started really working with, you know, doing music here in Arizona, everybody wanted to be Cali Light, Cali Jr., you know, everybody wanted to be Compton the second, you know. And again, that's not a diss. I don't mean that in, you know, in a negative at all. I mean, it just, that's what it was.
Right.
I remember lots of times where people would just tell me, you sound like you East Coast, fam. And I'm like, okay, cool. And for me though, I wanted to be able to do anything.
Right.
I wanted to be able to do any song with anybody. I wanted to be able to do work with any producer. I wanted to be able to go and be in a situation wherever it may have been, with whatever sound, with whatever, and I want to be able to fit right in. I want to just drop right in and be like, oh, that dude's supposed to be there.
Okay.
Because, you know, there was a period, especially in the 2000s and around the time we just talked about, 2004, 2008, where everybody was trying to be everything else. They wanted to be, this is my Swiss Army knife of music type of thing. But they weren't comfortable in it, and they weren't really wanting to do it. They were doing it because they thought it was popular. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy, well, shit, I feel like doing this. I'll call it one of my favorite projects, but one of my favorite collaborations was Rockin' Rascals. And the reason being was everybody kind of had this idea, very much to what you said, that, well, you real East Coast, bro. You do super East Coast music. That's all you just real East Coast. You sound like you like from Philly. I used to hear that all the time. I used to get cats, you know, the homies with, you know, me and Dickies and Chucks and shit. And they'd be like, yo, you sound like you from New York or from Jersey or some shit, you know? And then, So I got with some dudes that are true West Coast sounding, you know, gangster music, right?
Yes.
And I was like, me slide on in here. We got after it, right? And I never had to worry about that again, because anytime, at any place, I could be in anything, and I could have any album. What kind of music y'all listen to here? That's a song. What kind of music y'all listen? That's that song. What kind of album? Yeah, that's that album. But to that point, to your original purpose question, the producers that I've worked with, I think some of it is a vibe of their intention with creation. I'm gonna tell a funny story. To me, it's funny.
Okay.
When I first met Lost Perception, and I'll say this because that's my guy. He was when I recently got married about 9 years ago.
Okay.
Again, and there were only a couple of people that I even told that was going on, and he was one of those people that was there.
Okay.
So I say that to lead into, this is a friend of mine. So when I say this story, I can say this from that space.
Okay.
When I first met Lost Perception was from Arizona Beats, first of all. And he hit me up and he says, yo, you do really dope music. I'm a producer. I'd love to do something with you. And I was like, all right, for sure. I'm down. I'm not gonna lie. I'm blushing and shit. You know, I'm thinking, yo, this dude thinks I'm dope. Oh, hey, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm feeling, I'm like, yo, that's dope. So he sent me a couple of beats and I was like, yo, this is crazy. One of the songs, and I still have it, is, I don't remember now whether I actually released it as on an album or anything.
Okay.
It's a song called Champion. And it's classic Lost Perception. But I will say at the time, I don't think I'd ever felt as comfortable on a beat as I did on that.
Oh, okay.
And then he gave me a few others, right, over time, and I think we even did like a little remix of some shit that I had already done, and I was just blown away. Because in a lot of cases, without him and I even talking, he would send me exactly what I needed. Without us even in a lot of cases, I'm kind of closed off in how I make music. And what I mean by that is I'm not the guy who's going to come in here and say, oh, I got this song and I'm working on this and I'm working on that. No. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that all of a sudden be like, okay, so I finished this. So with him, a lot of time I wasn't saying to him, yo, I'm going to try to make a X song or that song or this song or whatever. I never have that label for it, or, I'm not going and typing in, this is the brand name song I'm going to do today.
Right.
But he would send me stuff and it would be just magic. Like he would just automatic. I'd be like, yo, this is crazy. The sound that he would have or he would be, presenting would be perfect for the same. Shogun is another one that, I kind of fell into the same type of thing. I had worked with a number of artists that he worked with, and so I had the opportunity, of course, to get on some of those beats, and I was like, "This motherfucker does crazy stuff, bro."
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I was like,
so good.
and it would just happen, and it would happen over this time, and they would put up these beats, they put up time, and I'm not as much about it. I haven't been as much about it in the last few years, but I'm a fucking workhorse when it comes to rapping, to writing, to making albums and shit. You know, a lot of artists, they like to, let me get these beats, and then they sit on them for 3, 4, 5 years, never comes out, some shit like that. I would hit these dudes up and be like, I'm working on an album. And they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'll shoot you a couple beats. They shoot me a couple beats, and I'd have an album done in a week or a month or whatever. And it would be everywhere, and I'd be pushing it, and people would be saying like, damn, what are you doing? You know, that type of thing. And so it was always, and it was always a respectful thing. When I did All Things in Due Time, I argued with Lost Perception, because it meant so much to me to make sure that I had the tagline on the album cover that said produced by the Council Productions. At the time, he was in a producer group called the Council, and I argued with him because he said, "No, you don't have to do it." I was like, "I don't care, bro. You don't understand that this is as much you as it is for me. And as much as what you've done is what created this, is as much as what I've done created that." And so that connection, is just magic. There's really, I hate to say it because it almost sounds like I'm saying, well, there's nothing else to it, but there really isn't anything else to it. Yeah. It's that he and Flip, who used to do some stuff, and also shout out to Deuce, who used to do stuff with Council Productions, but all of them were, it was just amazing music, and it always made me feel like I'm probably not worthy of this beat, so I'm about to try to do every motherfucking thing I can to get on this, Paco is another one that is an interesting story. All of my producer connects, if you want to call them that, all the folks that I primarily work with, they're all interesting stories, not just really to me, because most people, when I say it, because I don't do a lot of bragging and shit like that, right? I don't do like, I'm this, I'm that. I'm always on well, he just gave me a really fucking fire beat. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't want to shit on his beat. I didn't want him to go, man, why this motherfucker rap on my shit, bro? Right. With Paco, I remember I'd heard a beat or two that he did for a couple of different artists. And I was like, yeah, this is crazy. And I was kind of in a hiatus place where I wasn't really rapping much. And I was just kind of like, all right, I think I'm getting old. I think I'm done with it. So one day I actually hit him on Facebook and I said, hey, so what kind of food I got to get you to do me up some beats? Okay. Right? He's like, nothing, whatever. It was just kind of a haha type of thing. He sent me a couple beats and we went to work. And that again turned into a really, 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 really super close friendship. One of my best friends at this point. And so we did the Misery, and again I did the same thing where it was like, I need you to be listed on this fucking album cover. That way somebody sees this album cover, they know you did it. Yeah. They know you did it. Yeah. Black One is another guy who is, I've had the pleasure of doing a album with Black One, but I've always been in and out with Black One as far as doing things with him on his projects and his stuff, as well as he's always kind of thrown me a beat here and there and whatever. Because I just absolutely respect Jerron and what he does as a creator, as a creative. His mind, I have always had just the utmost of respect for him. And so I wanted to be able to do something with these guys that I respect, that I probably respect or I feel are much greater than me. And I was always taught, over the course of life, that you never complain down and you never strive below yourself. So me, I looked at myself like, I want to be better than I am today. And I can't do that with people who I don't feel are better than me. Okay. And I felt like these producers and the music and the stuff that they do is way above what I do. Okay. And I had the drive to feel like, look, I don't want you. And I tell them to this day, yesterday, tomorrow, I tell them, it's like, I don't ever want you to give me a beat and you be like, this motherfucker sucks. Right. Ever. And I was like, if I got to rewrite this motherfucker 36 times and re-record it over and over and over, I want to do your music justice. I want to do your creativity, the honor the respect and honor that it deserves. That's fair. So yeah, that's why, and again, one more guy I really have to mention out is Mitchell Valdez. I met Mitch as a result of another project. In fact, I'd done a project with this gentleman from Ghana named 3Q Beats.
Okay.
And at the time, the dude was like, yeah, well, if you do it, we can do it together. We only do this or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. Did it, put it up. The beats were, sonically, they were a little bad. I mean, sonically, I should say, from a mixing standpoint, they were really bad, from time to time. And, things were really loud. He only gave me 2 tracks. The 2-track, the Wave. So I tried to make it work, whatever. So Mitch heard the album. He was like, man, you're so fucking dope, bro. I need to throw you some beats. And I was like, all right, I'm like, all right. So he plays me a couple beats. I'm like, this motherfucker's crazy. Why the fuck are you sending me shit?
Right.
I'm like, this shit, I think dude played me like 10 beats. And I swear to God, all 10 of them were fire, but all 10 of them, I'm like, you sure you want to get that to me, bro?
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, because I don't think, I don't know. I'm like, I'm over there like, hey, this shit is cold, but you sure this is what we're gonna do here? Right. And he's like, nah, dude. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, I listen to your stuff on that album, which made me then go listen to your other shit. And I was like, this motherfucker is rapping. I was like, but I still don't think this beat. I don't think I'm gonna do anything on this thing. Right. But so it did turn into something crazy. We've done a couple of albums. We've done three projects. For what it's worth, An Audience of One is produced entirely by Mitch.
Okay.
But it is, again, kind of the same thing. A lot of the time we talk off and on. And I'm quiet. Like I said, I'm kind of quiet. I'm kind of reclusive. Like I just kind of hang out and do my thing. I'm not a rapper guy. Like I'm not telling everybody, hey, I'm a rapper. Listen to me.
Right.
I'm not that guy, And so these guys that I mentioned, these producers that I mentioned, these guys have literally, they just have ideas or something. And maybe those ideas just have my name on it in the ether. But they send me stuff and it's always on time and it's always the right timing. And I'm, like I said, I'm just fortunate, that they respect me or, that they have that belief in what I do. And it, a lot of the time they're not even privy necessarily to the direction of the album. An Audience of One, like you mentioned from last year, Mitch only heard it a week before everyone else.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't play it for anyone. I wouldn't play it for my wife. Well, my wife heard it because I record my studio's at home. So
right.
She heard parts and she heard this and that. And I would play a song for her because, at the end of the day, if she like it, I'm good. Everybody else, she'll tell me in a heartbeat, that shit's trash. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he heard it a week before everybody else. I literally had put it into distro already. And I was like, yo, so... Here it goes.
Right. I let it slide.
Yeah, it's like, here you go, bro. Yo, yeah. But yeah, from that standpoint, legitimately, it is just I've been blessed with people who are incredible creatives that somehow know how to tap into what I'm trying to do, and I'm just trying to make them proud.
Do you ever see yourself stopping, or you think you'll keep going till? I have music forever.
Look, man, I have retired, quit, stopped, etc. 35 times at this point in life. There are times where there was a point where I actually sold all my equipment, all this other shit. And then I just keep coming back. What I learned from that, though, is, at the end of the day, you're going to do what you're going to do when you feel to do it. What I stopped doing was making myself do it. I have tons of ideas and things like that, but sometimes those ideas don't have to happen at that time.
Timing is everything.
And another thing with music, especially with hip hop, we're all ingrained in this grind and hustle mentality, meaning that you always got to be doing something. You always got to be going fast. Go.
Yeah.
And we start convincing ourselves that if you're not doing something, you're not doing anything. And I found that the reality is it's not true. It's not realistic. It's not sustainable. I could write music every day, all day, every day, and everything else. But do I feel like recording it? Do I feel like doing all of the other things that get people to listen to me? Do I feel like those things, all those other pieces are the issue? I've never had writer's block in my entire life. My entire life, never had writer's block. What I tell people is what I have a lot of the time is motivation block. I don't want to record. I don't want to sit there and I know a lot of people know it now because it's a little more prevalent, but recording a song is never, there's no one who has ever recorded an album on one take. Period.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So in most cases, you're recording a verse, for example, 16 bars, you're dropping that 16 bars 5 or 6 times in a row. You might fuck it up 3 or 4 times and then drop it again and then not like it. The point I'm saying in that is sometimes you have to be motivated to create what you have created in your head.
Right.
And that's where I think I learned to stop doing, I'm not gonna rap no more. I'm retired. I'm quitting.
Gotcha.
I've learned to say, maybe right now I don't want to record. Maybe I have an idea and I stole that idea, and then maybe 6 months from now I go, let's work.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I'm gonna let the
letting it breathe.
let it
Let it-
work.
yeah.
Let it work its
For sure.
way. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm in one of those spaces right now, for that matter. You know, I have a full fucking album written, drafted out. Everything's already lined up. So much so that all I really would have to do is
Just
record.
Right.
And I'm just not there,
Yeah.
you know, and I've learned again, you know, and I thank my wife also for kind of, you know, hit me in the head a few times. It's like, if you're not motivated to do it, why pump fake?
Yeah.
Why make yourself do it? You do it when you believe it. And if you don't believe it, don't do it.
I think that's good advice for
Yeah, man.
anything and everything. in life.
Absolutely.
Like we preach it all the time. Like timing is everything.
Absolutely.
Like, it really is. Like if you try to force whatever it is, I mean, it could be creative, it could be non-creative.
Yeah.
It could be anything in life.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're not ready to do it. Don't push yourself.
Exactly.
Because then you're usually going to go down a path you ain't going to like.
Exactly.
You know, and
Very
the outcome
true.
is going to be not so good.
Absolutely.
You know, most of the time.
I agree. No, I agree.
with that.
So you've mentioned her quite a bit. Let's talk about Lady Blaze, man.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm gonna just let you go in, man, on wife, man, because you mentioned her quite a bit, and I think
Yeah.
it's very dope. Even when you sat down with Miranda, you know, at the core of all of this, right? Wifey's right there.
Yes, sir.
Talk about, as much as you want to, as much you want to let on, your guys' relationship and what she's meant to you, not only as you know, as a husband and as a father, but also in your career.
Well, you know what? Like, I know it's especially in hip hop, and especially now, a lot of men don't like to flat out say, okay, you know, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing.
Right.
You know, we're all ultimately still, you know, animals, and you know, we see something we like, we see something that's different, we see something that's beautiful, whatever, it attracts our attention. And as a result, we all kind of, not we all, but we tend to try to downplay the effectiveness of our partners or our spouses or our girlfriends or whatever.
Great way to put it.
I probably don't deserve the wife I have. I will say that like flat out. And I know a lot of dudes say that shit and they say it because it sounds cool. I say it because I'm like, yo, I probably don't. And I'm good with the fact that I probably don't, but I do have her. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like, the difference is, you know, that difference makes a lot to me. I will say the one thing about, you know, the thing about our relationship is we have learned throughout this period of time that we've been together is that honesty is everything. The uncomfortable honesty, the hurtful, because I know a lot of people like to pretend that honesty is never hurtful. That's a lie.
Right.
There are things that she has said to me because of things that I'm doing or I have done that hurt my feelings, but I needed my feelings hurt. Right. There are things that we are honest about for the purpose of improvement of each other.
Right.
And there are things that we're honest about there for the purpose of improving us as a unit. I look at her as someone who, if nothing else, has my best interest at heart, even when I don't. I am notoriously moody. And I don't mean that in the stupid way, like people say, I just woke up, it's Monday. I mean, I legitimately deal with anxiety and depression issues. And my wife has been the most supportive person possible across all of that spectrum of feelings, emotions, actions, etc. From a business standpoint, as far as music goes, as far as all the website stuff that I do, the art, the graphics, the podcasts, all these different things that I do, she is interested enough that I go to her for most of my advice, or she is my whiteboard, sounding board, and all of those things at one time.
Dope.
Because if nothing else, I know that she has my best interest at heart, not the money, not the if it's successful, it is whether or not it is going to be of benefit to me first, and then to us, and et cetera, and to the producers. My wife has checked me a couple times where, you know, I say, hey, I have to do this, back to the point we just talked about, where I'd say, I have to do this because I said that I was going to do it. Because I'm big on my word. I ain't a lot, but if I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it, period, you know, to a fault. And she has corrected me a few times where it's like, hey, you can still do it, but you got to do it at the right time, when it's the right time. I will say, I will also credit the fact that I even do music right now to her. Because as I mentioned before, there's a few times where I'm like, man, fuck this shit. I'm cool. I ain't doing no rapping shit. I ain't no rapper no more. Or no shit like that. And she's like, look, dude, this is something that you do, and it's something that you're creative. You know, it's something you believe in. It's something you've been doing for years, whatever. She's like, besides you, step out of the way of you, right? She's like, there's tons of people who listen to you and like what you do as an artist, or, you know, they may take some type of influence or some type of motivation from what you say or from what you do. And she's like, you've got to look at it that way also.
Right.
I credit a lot of things to her. Especially because even in the manner in which we met, in the space that I was when we met, and some of the things that we've been through since then, you know, that's one of those things where it reminds you that, you know, the efforts and the things that you're doing, that it isn't just you. It isn't just only you. As artists, a lot of the time we get very central focused on, I am the artist, I am this guy or whatever. I'm not a very egotistical person when it comes to music like that. Like, I hide from it. Even on shit, you look on my Instagram, I post like every 6 months. It seems like I'm not that guy, but she's always kind of in my ear. Like, you really do have a way with things. Use it.
Right.
You know? And so having somebody, at least, it's like I part of one of the reasons why an audience of one is named what it is. There's two aspects that I took from it. One of it is kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, in that I really don't give a shit who don't like it, or, you know, because I know a lot of rappers, especially, they focus on haters. They focus on the negatives, right? Like, fuck my haters, people listening. I ain't that guy. I don't give a shit about them, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I don't give a shit about a hater, bro. I'm always just kind of like, dude, I don't even know what that means. I'm more looking like, all right, dude, if this person likes it, cool. If they don't, cool.
Right.
But for that album, there were two things. One of them, of course, is that it's an audience of one, and I'm that audience. That is part of why I didn't play it for anybody until it was ready to go or whatever. I'm the audience that matters. If I like it, and I did it, and I meant it, and I believe it, then that's what matters. But the second part of that, and the part that made me really commit to calling it an audience of one, was she's the only person I really give a shit about their opinion as far as the music goes. I love my boys. You know, I love Cisco. I love Paco, Mitch, all these guys that I do music with, that I, producers, et cetera. But I could give a shit less about their opinions. But if she tells me that song ain't it, I'm like, yo, let me get this shit. Let me redo this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if she says, yo, this is my shit, I'm over the moon for the month, bro. Hey, everybody! Look, at that point, everybody! Everybody! Oh, y'all getting it? Look, feed everything else, bro. I mean, a legit story about her. Going back to 2017, during the time where I was doing all these albums. I remember when I told her, I'm like, yo, so this year coming up, I'm gonna drop an album every month. I was like, and if I get a little excess, I might do a 13th, right? And so she's like, that's crazy. That's a lot of work. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, right? Because if I don't do it, then I'm going to wish I did it. So I fucking did it, right?
Right.
So there's this song that I have, and I don't care where it is, when it happens. I've done tons of songs that she really likes, but this song in particular, it's called Mercy Killer. And my boy Jay is on the hook. And I remember the very first time that I played this song for her, I didn't want to record no more. Because she was like, yo, this shit is fucking crazy. She's jumping all around in the room. She's like, this shit's crazy.
That's
I was like,
dope.
yeah, I'm done rapping.
Right.
I'm good. I was like, I don't need nothing. No, I don't need no more songs. Fuck this. I'm out of here. That's where it is, bro.
That's dope.
But you know, like, and I am very careful to tell her that. What I will say is I'm big on flowers. I am big on giving the people around me the flowers they deserve every single chance I get. And with her, I tell her, I'm like, you know, if you hadn't said X, I probably would have never recorded this. If you hadn't did this, I probably would have listened to my own dumb self, you know? She is a very big part of everything, pretty much everything that I'm doing and I'm able to accomplish. And she's super supportive about it. So it's like, it just goes without saying, it's a very, very big part of what I do. And I say I because I'm a one-man show for the most part.
Right.
You know, all the different shows that I do, the different, you know, different groups, the different art, like a lot of the art that all my album covers, I've done them. You know, a lot of the stuff that we do with, you know, BP Mercenary stuff up until recently, I did them. As far as the art, you know, I mix, I do all the recording, all, you know, all that shit. I'm a one-man show. So having somebody to be like, you need to take a break, bro. Or in some cases, like, hey, you good? You know, get on your shit. And so she is probably she's the engine that, you know, that really keeps all of this shit going. So that's why a lot of the time I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool. She's like, nah, dude, you got to do this. You got to do another this. But she's, you know, she's a music head too. So she's really into music anyway. So it's not like when she says something, I'm like, nah, you don't know what the fuck you talking about, bro.
Exactly.
Like she ain't coming over to me talking about Lil Pump is the best rap artist of the year or some shit. You know what I'm saying? We be over there. She'll laugh at me because I'm big. I like, you know, Sada Baby dropped that song last year and everybody was going crazy. And I listen to that song all the time and it's fucking stupid. And I love it. I love it. And she's like, why do you listen to this song? It's like, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, she is definitely a big piece of why, like, we're even talking right now, you know, cause she knows me and she knows how I am and, you know, the good and the bad of me. And she deftly navigates that. She knows when she has to kind of crack the whip. She knows when she needs to be soft. She knows when she needs to influence rather than dictate, rather than direct. And, you know, it's very difficult to find people who are that way. And it's a whole nother level to find someone who is your partner or your wife to be that way. So yeah.
Dope, man. Shout out to Lady Blaze.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
She probably gonna cuss me out later anyway because I get on her nerves.
It ain't right. It ain't right if they don't curse you out.
Goddamn right. Goddamn right.
You mentioned it, in there, you do a podcast show, right?
Yes.
The Glue Guys?
Yes, the Glue Guys program. Yeah. So it is it's basically a sports. I hate using basically just to describe something, but it's a sports program. It's rooted primarily in Arizona softball. But what we do is we kind of expand. We talk about music. We talk about pops, for example. You know, we talk about MMA, a lot of sports. It's a lifestyle show is what we call it.
Nice.
And so we've been doing that for just about a year and change.
Okay.
It's been phenomenal because, you know, in softball, in the softball community, you know, everybody's just kind of doing what they're doing. It's recreational or whatever, but everybody likes to be talked about. Everybody likes to hear about themselves. Everybody likes to discuss. Everybody likes the drama, whatever. And so we've tried to find a good way to bridge between the drama, the attention, the different things. And it has done nothing but grow throughout the time that we've been doing it. It's still a little weird for me because a lot of time when I go out to play and people are like, hey, that's that dude from the Glue Guys. I'm like, oh yeah. Yep. And
Right.
I kind of have to get on it a little bit, but it's been great because a lot of people have been really interested in it. We just recently started expanding where we stream the show. We are there every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We initially started just doing Facebook and YouTube, I should say. And now we've expanded to Facebook, YouTube. We also stream on Twitch. And then we have started to add, clips and whatnot on Instagram. And so we're starting to expand now that people are starting to know about it. We're getting a lot of people from other states, cities, etc. We're like, yo, hey, we heard about y'all. We heard about what you guys do. Shout out to my man Mark. Also because I'm basically just the co-host and producer in the show because I'm usually like the straight man in the duality. He's the wild, crazy one. I'm usually the straight man. But the beauty is of it, we flip it all the time. We switch roles like all the time. So it's actually been great. It's been great. It's very great.
Do you guys have guests and stuff like that?
We do. We try to keep a guest at least once a month, and usually those guests are a little more tailored towards softball or tailored towards the tourneys that are happening in that period of time. Or a couple of times we've had like directors from the different sanctions come on. We've started kind of expanding into different divisions, so we've had a few people that are a little more prominent in those divisions come on. But yeah, it really just kind of depends, on how it works for, what we're trying to talk about or what's going on. But yeah, it's been cool.
Nice.
Well, during college football NFL season, I don't know if y'all watch, but
oh yeah,
I'm pulling up.
You could do it.
College football season,
ain't nothing to it.
I'm in there.
See, look, here's the problem we often have, right? So I'm a quintessential shitter. So my man is an Eagles fan. So I spend almost the entire NFL season saying anything I possibly can anti-Eagles. Right? So one of our sticks is in fact that part. Like I'm a Cardinals fan, right? And as disgusting as that sounds, as difficult as that is to be, it pretty much knocks anyone's clowns off the table immediately.
Right.
Because I start clowning on my own team.
Right.
So boom, we're out here now. So everything is open. So to your point about college football, we actually talk about college football. Okay. So we can definitely get you to pull up on it.
I would love to.
Yeah, there's nothing to it.
Yeah. Was there anything we missed? Anything we need to cover?
I don't think so. I think I talked too much. But
no, this is awesome. We love it. That's what the podcast's all about. You know what I mean?
Man, I understand. No, it's been great. It makes me feel different. It's hard to hear words like legend and all that shit because I'm like, nah, I'm just a bum ass motherfucker that raps, right? But it's well appreciated. I don't want to be ungracious. So that's not what I intend when I say that.
For sure.
But it's crazy hearing even like you said, like I remember that period of time, and a lot of the time we forget about what we do. Mm-hmm. I know. Law's Reception gets on my ass about this a little bit in his own way. He gets on me about it because I'm a person that when I finish doing something, I move on. I don't hold it. I don't look. I did this. I just move along. Right. And one thing that he always kind of reminds me, and I appreciate him for reminding me, is sometimes you have to accept what you've done and live in it for a little bit.
Sure.
And so these are some of those times where I don't have a choice. I don't have a chance to be like, so anyway, moving on, you know what I'm saying? So no, I appreciate you guys having me nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? It's big time fun.
Yeah. Let them know, where they can find you.
Literally anywhere, that is a social media outlet, it's going to be It's Blaze Rock. Just like you said, who is it? Yeah, It's Blaze Rock. I stream on Twitch, video games. I do, Overwatch. I do Apex Legends. We're adding a couple of other games. I do that Monday and Wednesday with my man Leo Croft, Sticks Figure Gaming. We do that 4:30 p.m. MST Mondays and Wednesdays. Come through. You'll hear me talking a lot of shit, very much similar to how I'm doing here. Otherwise, I frequent Instagram a lot, which again is It's Blaze Rock. You can also find literally all this music that I have ever done on practically every digital outlet anywhere across the world. As well as you'll hear me on BP Mercenaries. You'll hear me on Western Block. Cross-platform collective, and yeah, you'll hear my weird voice at all those different places. But yeah, come follow him, come holler at your boy on Instagram. That's the only thing I ever really check. I I'm just so not social media anymore. It's tough, dude.
Yeah,
it's
it's
tough.
hard.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
it is
I
tough.
had to force myself to just be like, well, I'm posting, man.
Yes, I mean, like legit. I know we wrapping up, dude. I gotta say, that's the one thing for me is like sometimes I'm just like I don't want to do all that shit,
it's
bro. I
work.
just want to, like, dude. I just want to. Here, I dropped this song. Here, listen to this. Or
Right.
hey, this is this funny video with a cat, and I happen to be rapping in the back, or something like that. Like I don't, or like I don't want. Like I will. I know if I look at my posts right now, I think I posted last week or this week. And I don't think I posted for like another month prior to that.
Okay.
And I just don't want to. Like,
Right.
But I love interacting with folks. And I don't want to sound like I'm a cocky motherfucker because I'm not.
No,
I'm really
it's-
just
no,
chill.
no,
Like, I'm like, I'm just not comfortable with all that extra shit, bro. I like
I
just,
get it. I get it.
I just like, I like doing the music. I like streaming because if nothing else, even when I'm not really all that sociable, it's a blast because you're sitting there playing, you're doing something you're doing and people relate to it and they can relate to your failures. They can relate to your successes. And you're just kind of open there for that respect. And it very much for me is, therapeutic, almost like music in a way where this is what it is. You can like it or you don't. And I hope you like it and I hope you fuck with it. And if you do, I love you for it. So
Dope. Well, we're going to sprinkle everything down below.
yes, sir.
And then that way y'all can slide right in.
Yes, sir.
Go follow my man Blaze Rock.
Yes,
you know what I'm
sir.
saying? Appreciate you coming through, man.
Absolutely.
This was an
Thank you
absolute
again for
blast,
having me.
man.
For
Thank
real.
you.
For real.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Doors wide open. Come back.
Appreciate
anytime you
it.
want.
Appreciate it.
I know we'll probably have to pull you back in.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. No, yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again. Definitely.
Anyways, you guys stay safe. You guys stay positive out there.
And as always, this is the Gray Space. Peace.
Focus before you implode in the streets, the cooling it cut, keeping it booming and such, while you barely moving enough. Who could you compare to and what? Fold you figure eight goofies in the cobra clutch while my fists are touching you up. It's like I'm a higher vibration, a level of dimension, sitting on a live nation. Worldwide, putting your chicks in a side station. I can divide your faces if you decide to face it.